mortgage on the name of the existing homeowner, you're basically risking a clause in the contract, in the mortgage contract, that's called a due on sale clause. Meaning, if you pass the deed on to somebody. Hey, Ola here, coming to you live from my Empire Pro Studios. I have a question here. It says, I have a owner who has a mortgage, owes $260,000, repairs $20,000, ARV, which is after repair value, is $320,000. Should I shoot for subject to? Okay, so subject to is a popular thing right now. I'm going to be very frank and honest with you. For a long time, I shied away from subject to. I still shy away from it naturally. I'd rather deal with just straight purchase out of somebody's hands completely, totally, as opposed to dealing with them still while we take over the property subject to existing mortgage. So before I dive into my answer for this question, let me just explain to you what we're talking about. We're talking about real estate wholesaling, which is basically you put a house under contract, you take that contract is now worth money. You now have an equitable interest in that contract, in that property, by putting a house under contract. You put a house under contract is not just as simple as that. If a property is worth $100,000, you want to put it under contract for $65,000 less the repair cost. Okay, so if it costs about $10,000 estimate to repair the property, right, you want to basically offer $65,000 minus the $10,000 repair estimate. Your offer will be $55,000. So the formula to put on a house under contract in wholesaling is 65% of the after repair value minus the repair estimate, and that will be your offer. And then you put that house under contract for $55,000. You take that contract. That contract is kind of like an option to buy at $55,000, and you sell that to another person who is the end buyer, your business partner, right? And they pay $55,000, and then they pay you $10,000. They've now paid $65,000 for a property that needs $10,000 worth of work, and that property is worth $100,000. They put in $10,000 worth of work. That now their cost is up to $75,000. They're able to make $25,000. Just estimate, but of course you're gonna have to factor in closing cost, holding cost, whatever else that's in there, right? But that's the idea of real estate wholesaling. You flip properties for a living. You market to motivated sellers who want to get rid of their property. You put it under contract for less than what the property is worth, minus the cost of repair, and then you sell that contract for a fee. It's called a wholesaling fee. So that's the traditional wholesaling, which we still do. Okay, and as a matter of fact, recently we generated a lead with one person willing to sell us more than 15 houses. Okay, so if you stay in this game, some lucky days will happen. But if you are very quick to quit on yourself, then you're gonna be very unlucky by default, right? So let's look at this question a little closer. No, before I get into the question, the subject to means you, instead of you just purchasing the property outright, meaning somebody wants to sell, you purchase it outright and it's sold to somebody else completely entirely. Sometimes the homeowner is now willing to accept $55,000 or 55% or 50% of the actual value, but they can accept 75%, 80%, maybe because there's a mortgage on it that's basically worth that much. Okay, so for example, if somebody was owing $70,000 on the example I just gave you, they can't sell you the house for $55,000 without a short sale or a subject to. That's a strategy. It's an exit strategy. Okay, a short sale means the bank will have to accept that they will take $55,000 provided the homeowner walks away with nothing. Okay, and then they will write off the loan, the $70,000 loan. They will accept 55 and walk away and go invest that somewhere else. So outside of short sale, if a homeowner is not willing to have their credit destroyed and they don't want to stop payment, which is typically a requirement in short sale, then you can offer a subject to, which means you want to purchase the property but subject to the existing mortgage on the property. So you're taking over the responsibility of paying the mortgage. So the reason why you would do that is if the rent actually covers the mortgage. Let me repeat that. The only reason why you want to do that is if the income potential of such property from a rental standpoint covers the expenses of the property, right? Then it's a profitable situation. But for many other reasons, a homeowner may just want to exit. Maybe they are out of state landlord, they're tired of being a landlord, and you have the resources as an active real estate investor to take over the property, but just keep paying the mortgage. But then you take the rental income, pay the mortgage, and then you find other exit strategies. Okay, like for example, you could fix the house, put it back on the market, and see if you can sell it at full price. There are many things like that. Okay, but again, because it's still subject to a whole mortgage on the name of the existing homeowner, you're basically risking a clause in the contract, in the mortgage contract, that's called a due on sale clause. Meaning if you pass the deed on to somebody else, they can call the whole loan, they can call it due. Meaning they'll say, give us all $100,000, give us all the $70,000. They'll call it due, meaning they cancel your mortgage agreement because you breached the contract, which says you shouldn't sell it while you have a mortgage on it, right? But again, the only time you usually get in trouble like that if they stop paying, okay? But if they're paying the mortgage and you pass the deed on to somebody else, typically it's not going to be a problem, okay? Because they don't care, they just care about the money coming in, right? If the money stops coming in and they go check your deed on the tax record, which is public record, and they see that the deed is on somebody else's name, then you have a serious problem, okay? And the homeowner who really trusted you would be like, okay, this was all illegal, why did you do it, right? These are some of the reasons that I shied away from it. There may be ways around this that I don't, that I particularly won't advertise to you, but that's the gist, okay? So the question, back to the question, he has a homeowner with a mortgage of $260,000, repairs is $20,000, $20,000 is after repair value. So the formula is, what is the 65% of that $320,000? What is the 65% of that? So we're gonna do that math real quick, all right? And then let's do it together. Let's see. So 65% of 320 will be 65 times 3, right? Let's see here. All right. So 320, multiply that by 0.65, 65%, right? So you have $208,000. So if this property needed no work at all, we already know that we cannot pay more than $208,000 for it because we're trying to wholesale it. And again, I assume we're talking about a motivated seller, somebody that needs to get out of this property. They have to be willing to sell for $208,000 or less, because that's 65%. Some people say 70%. It depends on what works for you, but I like 65% because then I have room to negotiate, right? So now the cost of repair is $20,000, okay? So with that cost of repair, basically $208,000 minus $20,000, right? That's $188,000. So our maximum, they call it maximum allowable offer, is $188,000 for this property, okay? But here's the problem. The person, the homeowner, owes $260,000 on the property, okay? So they owe $260,000 on the property. I can only offer $188,000. I can't. My maximum allowable offer for a straight traditional wholesaling of the property is $188,000. But I need more information. Okay, this is where we end this question. In order to know if I can do a subject to on this property, I need to know how much is it to service the loan, meaning how much is the mortgage payment plus the other expenses like utility, repair and maintenance, insurance, obviously the P.I.T.I, principal, interest, taxes and insurance, right? So maintenance, repair, vacancy factor. When you're thinking about rental income, you got to factor in vacancy factor. There's quite a few things that I'm going to share with you right now, okay, that I always look at when I'm looking at a rental property. So these are the information I would need to know. Utility, which is usually about 20% of the potential income, okay, that's just an estimate. Property management, I don't want to be a landlord, I just want to be an investor, so I want to be able to pay somebody 10% to be the super, right? Maintenance and repair, right? 10%, I usually estimate about 10% for that, 10% of the potential gross annual income of the property, right? Vacancy factor, yeah, there's going to be some time that the property will be sitting vacant. I need to factor that in. These are the reasons why people get into trouble, okay? So those are the numbers I would need to know to determine if this is a good candidate for subject to, and clearly this question doesn't have that. But again, it answers your question. You need to figure out what those numbers are, and if $260,000 worth of mortgage, continue to pay that, because when you buy subject to, you're buying subject to existing mortgage. If that can compensate for that, then yeah, it can be a good subject to candidate, okay? Chances are no, especially if it's a single family, okay? But if it passes, it's just numbers. Look at the numbers. If it makes sense, then it's absolutely a good candidate. So, but what I can see here is that this property is a good candidate for short sale, provided the homeowner is willing to risk their credit getting messed up temporarily, okay? Because short sales would typically not be entertained by the bank unless the loan is at default, which means the mortgage becomes a non-performing asset. All right, so that's what I have for you on this question. Hopefully you've been enlightened, educated. If you have any more questions, post them in the comment box below, and click like, share, comment your question below. Don't forget to download the book, smartrealestateWholesaling.com. Hopefully you've been enlightened and educated. I'll see you on the next one, and peace.